So, this is officially the beginning of Zelda week. We're going to be talking about all Zelda starting this week, and this time we've got a full week, 7 straight videos of Zelda this week, right? And to kick things off, I have very mixed feelings in regards to Age of Imprisonment, which was the most recent entry in the Zelda series, right? And this time, unlike Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, this one is actively canon. This one has a direct storyline that actually does lead directly into Tears of the Kingdom, kind of, for the most part, right? So this time it didn't feel like they straight up lied to us, right? But regardless of what was said, what happened with Age of Calamity, I liked Age of Calamity a lot. I spent like an absurd amount of time on that game, right? It gave me a lot to do, all the characters you could play as and unlock and stuff like that, all the different unique missions and things like that, all the cool enemy types or whatever. It was just a lot to play around with. It was really, really fun, and I have a good couple, I want to say 150 plus hours on there. I was playing that game a lot. Like, that was just a really good pastime for a good while, right? So, of course, when they announced Age of Imprisonment, I was ecstatic. Now, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and be, ignorant to the fact that a lot of people are not too keen on the warrior style when it comes to games like this. There are some things that it works with and some things that it doesn't. Me, personally, I'm all for it. I love just very simplistic, go out there, mow down enemies, get stronger, mow down enemies faster, repetitive, loop. I'm all for that. You know what I'm saying? I love my RPGs, and I love just straight hands, balls to the wall action. And most, what do they call them? Mosu games? They give me that, right? So I'm a big fan of the One Piece Pirate Warriors games. I'm a big fan of, obviously, Hyrule Warriors, all 3 of them. You know what I'm saying? I'm a big fan of Fire Emblem Warriors. Most recently, honestly, the most recent one was my favorite. There's more. I've played other Warriors games, I'm sure. I just haven't played Dynasty Warriors, ironically enough, but I'll get there. But regardless, so I was ecstatic, for Age of Imprisonment. And now that I've sat on it for a couple of weeks now, or I guess a month and a half at this point, at the time you're seeing this, I'm mixed on it. You know what I'm saying? Because, there is obviously a lot of things that I've liked and a lot of things that I disliked. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to cover my likes. We're going to talk about my positives. We're going to talk about my negatives, and then my final opinion on it, right? To kick things off, obviously, I'm a big fan of the general gameplay. Like I said, I love Mosu games. I don't mind the repetitive nature of them. They're very simplistic, fun, and it gets the job done for me. I just love getting to see these characters use all of their powers and all of their arsenal with no bars held. This is one of the few times in games where there's no need to hold back on anything. They could even just make up BS to power up these characters and stuff like that to give them a stronger and cooler looking arsenal, and I'm all for that. Even if it is a little bit exaggerated, that's totally fine. That's the point of a video game. You know what I'm saying? That's why, even when they said for Force Unleashed, Starkiller's not that strong, whatever, I was totally fine with that because, they made the game fun. You know what I'm saying? I love Force Unleashed. So doing something like that, totally fine by me. I had a lot of fun with the general gameplay, the general, utilizing Zelda and Rauru and all of that to go to these different areas, claim territories and stuff like that, fight all these different unique bosses. And a lot of these bosses generally, they have a lot of different bosses this time around. Of course, they come back a lot. Don't get me wrong, they come back very, very often, but they do have a generally pretty decent amount of variety when it comes to their enemies, and the bosses are really, really neat. Of course, once you've learned the boss patterns, it's usually just kind of rinse and repeat until it's defeated, and that does happen a lot. But that's totally fine by me, because they usually do get stronger, and it does take sometimes a little bit longer to get through those bosses if you're not careful, right? But generally speaking, they have a lot of different maps and stuff like that. They have the flat map of Hyrule, then they have the sky, and then they even have the depths this time around. So you're traversing through 3 different maps and stuff like that, and that's cool. That's really, really cool that they found a way to incorporate that neat aspect about Tears of the Kingdom into a Mosu style game in which you are just, yeah, essentially, I mean, obviously it's just a bunch of reused assets, which is totally fine. That's the whole point of something like this. Totally okay with that. But yeah, you are going to the depths a lot, you're going to the sky a lot, and you are just progressing through either story or side quests in that format, and that's awesome. So overall, I really liked getting to know all of these different characters. Again, Zelda with her little like light knife situation and all of her powers being utilized to the fullest, because, you know, in this era, you know, it goes to show, like, she did spend a lot of time with these people, and during that, you know, they were kind of training her and allowing her to get to know her powers a little bit better, her abilities a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? She was a lot more in control of her power this time around. So canonically, she's extremely strong, you know, as we've seen from glimpses of Breath of the Wild, and even in Tears of the Kingdom, we've seen very small glimpses of her strength. And in this case, she is just mowing them down. You know what I'm saying? Just utilizing her power to the fullest extent. Like, even more so than in Age of Calamity, which I'm really, really happy about. Because I do like her in Age of Calamity, don't get me wrong. But here, like, it's a lot more grounded, and it makes a lot more sense, frankly. Right? I love the way she uses her powers here. It's very creative. It's a lot of fun. Especially incorporating all of, like, the time freezing aspects and stuff like that. Well, she'll throw her knife and, like, even enlarge her knife, throw it, pause time, bring it back, and cut right back through the enemies. That is so incredibly tough, you know what I'm saying? And then you have stuff like Rauru, his situation, and he's got, you know, he's got ki, basically. He is the Saiyan of the series now. Like, he is actually doing that shit. He is firing off tri-beams and stuff, mowing down hundreds of enemies with his big-ass weapon. He's so sick, man. I love Rauru. He is such a badass, and I'm all for it. 100%. So he's really cool. Obviously, we finally get to see all of the different, not champions, the other sages. We get to finally see the faces. We get the faces and names behind all of these stages, and we get to know at least a little bit more about each individual sage. You know what I'm saying? I'll be honest, I don't remember their names. It's been a good minute. But for the most part, you know, you get a better idea of, like their origins, like who they are and stuff like that. We get a better, like, glimpse at their personalities and whatnot. We just got a better, deeper look into those characters. And I'm 100% for that. Right? So, you know, that's really cool. There's probably a lot of other elements I'm just kind of not bringing up here. But, I mean, for the most part, you know, you get what you go in for, you know what I'm saying? You go in, you do a bunch of different missions and stuff like that, wherever those missions so happen to be. When you do a story mission, you unlock a bunch of different side quests, and doing those side quests is how you get more money, more levels, more equipment to power up your weapons and things like that. It's how you get materials so that you can utilize those to upgrade your people, your weapons, or your abilities, just get actual general abilities and things like that. Obviously, they have different shops for you to buy stuff from, or level up your team in different camps and training camps and stuff. I'm trying to think, I'm sure there's a lot that I'm missing here, but for the most part, you know, there is, you know, a very standard situation to games like this, and it meets all of those things to a very simplistic degree, so that everybody getting into it could just have a generally good time. So yeah, for the most part, very straightforward gameplay loop, very simplistic. I keep saying that, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be a broken record for this, but fun for the most part, especially if you like general RPGs and action and grindy nature. If you don't like grindy nature stuff, this game is, no Mosu game is ever going to be for you. No Warriors game is going to appeal to you, and that's totally fine. This is a very specific genre for a very specific audience, and I am that audience. So as somebody of that audience, generally speaking, I had a good time, right? Next major thing, I feel like this one in particular definitely deserves its own little section to talk about here because it's so neat, but the team up mechanics are really, really neat because you're always usually fighting with at least one other person with you, right? One other character, no matter who they are, right? And when you do that, you have they're called syncs. They're sync moves. And utilizing these sync moves, you do like something of a superpowered move where the two either hit the enemy back to back with like hard hitting moves, or they have a very special dedicated animation or move where they are actively working together. Like, for example, when you are working with Zelda and the construct, the Link construct, the Master Sword construct, I guess spoiler alert, whatever. It's been over a month, and not that many people are even looking at this game anymore. But regardless, you are playing with Zelda and the Construct, and they have an ability together where he will kind of like fly around and like bomb the enemy and things like that while Zelda does her thing afterwards, right? And it's really, really cool. Or vice versa, Zelda will power up the Construct with her light power so that the Construct is moving literally at the speed of light, like moving like a demon on the field. Fast as hell, cannot be stopped. Like Minato in Prime Storm. Oh my god, man. If you've ever had to experience that, you've been in the depths, brother. You've been in the depths. And I'm not talking Zelda depths, but regardless to say, there's a lot of those, and you could do that with pretty much anybody, and certain characters have very specific team-ups, and that's really, really neat. I love that they, went out of their way to develop these very specific sync moves for people, and that's awesome. I'm in love with that concept. They did mention, I guess, I'm sure we'll mention this a couple of times, but they did mention that there were a couple of things in regards to Age of Imprisonment that they really liked that could potentially be something of use or referenced in future Zelda titles, or a future Zelda title, whatever the next one may be. So we should definitely keep that in mind when playing Age of Imprisonment, which I think is interesting, but probably the most obvious thing would be the sync situation, right? Because we kind of had something like that in Tears of the Kingdom in a way, where we had the partner abilities with the champions, and we would utilize their abilities in different ways to get around the world, which is cool. I feel like they might embody that more and take that even further, but I could be wrong. I really, truly don't know what else they could be talking about, unless they're really going to change up the combat and stuff. That'd be weird, but we'll have to see what happens with that. But regardless, really, really solid mechanic. I definitely think that's one of the things that makes the game a little bit more interesting, aside from your typical Mosu. Just fun, cool little mechanic. And then, lastly, most importantly, the story was mostly solid. I think I appreciate this one, definitely, because it is 100% canon and they didn't lie to us this time, right? Again, Age of Calamity, while I like that game a lot, the story was buns. Time travel stuff in of itself is always finicky, even in the case of Tears of the Kingdom and Age of Imprisonment. Time travel stuff is so messy in any storyline. If I know that there's time travel involved at all, I'm rolling my eyes every single time, right? And that's not because I inherently hate the idea and concept of time travel stories. It's just that it's so easy to have so many different, what's the word I'm looking for here? Inconsistencies in things, right? It's just so easy to miss stuff that you're going to catch so much more when you're paying heavy attention to it. And naturally, again, every time I see time travel embedded in a story, I'm getting a little bit more critical, right? Because I'm seeing if things are consistent. And 9 times out of 10, there's a good couple things that are missing. I just usually try to avoid it if I can. But if it's in there, do what you got to do. But for the most part, here they went simple. We just followed Zelda back into the past, and we got to see what it was like during her time during the imprisoning war, right? They actually managed to turn this into a genuine war, right? Because the way they showcased the war throughout Tears of the Kingdom, whenever we would see flashbacks, was the final battle against Ganondorf. That's pretty much the extent of the war. We were kind of seeing glimpses here and there of a possible, them going out of their way to fight enemies here and there. But for the most part, we didn't see the war aspect. This was the war. You are going around all of Hyrule, helping out different folks that are involved in the war, whether it be the Rita, whether it be, all the champions or the sages' homelands and things like that. You're helping them out on their home turf, dealing with Ganon's armies and his minions and things like that, and whatever other general enemy happens to come by, right? So it's a nice, simple, grounded story for the most part. You just kind of, you're involved, or Zelda's involved in this war now, and you're not even following Zelda 100% of the time, because you're actually, half of it's following Zelda and Rauru, the other half is following the Construct and his little Korok buddy that found him, Calamo. which is voiced by ProZD, which is crazy. That was an interesting revelation, but that was fun. But for the most part, you follow both of these little separate stories. Calamo trying to find his planting spot, like the spot where he's going to grow into a tree. Like wherever he settles down, that's where he's going to grow into a mighty tree, is what he keeps telling people. And, you know, he wants to find the perfect spot. And so he travels along with the construct to find that spot, but also, you know, because the construct, again, spoiler alert, is made out of a piece of the Master Sword, it has a, you know, heroic duty to fulfill, essentially, in helping out all of these different people and things like that. It takes on the form of Link because that was its master, you know what I'm saying, in the future. So it, you know, it works alongside Calamo, helps out all of the different regions and people, and the Gorons and the Rito and the Gerudo and everything like that. You're just going around helping people best you can with them, and eventually, you know, after Ganondorf gets his true power after stealing the secret stone quote unquote from Sonya and gaining his actual power, that's when things really kick off. And so you got to work with everyone. Eventually Zelda, Rauru, everybody, the construct, and Calamo all eventually meet up, and they have to try and deal with everything together. So very simplistic, you know, nothing, again, sorry, I know I sound like a broken record, but very basic situation here. You know, they just kind of go around doing whatever they need to do. And it's not like it's the strongest story or anything like that, but it's, you know, it's kind of, it's fun. It's a fun little story to follow along just to see what happens and things like that. And I will say, like, generally speaking, overall, I feel like this had a really climactic ending. Like, I knew that they were going to change up something. I didn't know what, right? Because we already knew how this war ended, and that was with Rauru sacrificing himself to seal Ganondorf, so that inevitably Link would have to be the one to finish off Ganondorf in the future. That was the whole point. They kept it canon. But what we didn't know was the other side of everything with Calamo and the construct, because another aspect of this was Ganondorf utilizing his power to, you know, create his own construct. And like I said, not the strongest thing of all time. I don't think this was necessarily like the strongest possible plot point or anything like that. It just made it so that the good construct, our construct, kind of had something to do and like actively, inevitably build up to fight against, which is exactly what we got and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you know, that was his role. Was like being that silent fighter, that silent killer of, you know, the darkness that nobody knew as much about or knew completely understood. You know what I'm saying? So while they were off handling the primary threat in sealing Ganondorf, his puppet was going around causing mass murder or mass destruction or whatever, and that was, you know, our construct's situation to deal with, and Calamo's. So yeah, that definitely happened, you know. Like I said, I think it gave us one of the more climactic endings in the series by far, right? Like that was the most anime fight I have ever seen in Zelda, right? So I ain't too mad about it or anything like that, but you know, overall the lead up and build up to it with the evil construct, not the best thing of all time. But even disregarding that, you know, generally speaking, you know, the story's always been pretty solid for the most part. I do wish we got to spend more time with a lot more individuals and things like that throughout this story. I feel like it's just missing a lot of aspects, but you know, it got the job done, so I ain't mad at it. I don't know if I'll put this in positives as I will in my like middle ground, like my, you know, I'm okay about this now that I've said it out loud, if I'm being completely honest, you know, and it's okay. You are allowed to change your mind on things, you know, and again, speaking about it out loud, it's just like, you know, it's super whatever, if I'm so honest. So long story short, yeah, those are my liked, and that's what I'm questioning. Now, flipping it over, there are things that I disliked. First and foremost, the price. Absolutely not okay for that price. This is an actual spin-off game, right? I don't care if it's canon, there is no justification for that $70 price tag. Not in this era, especially with a Mosu game, which is the most repetitive form of thing you could do, especially when you're doing something like reusing assets. This had to be way cheaper to make than both either Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, so there's no way in hell this costs $70, right? Especially because, like, generally, if I'm honest, there's not even as much content here as there was in Age of Calamity. You know what I'm saying? So now it really doesn't justify the price. Now the price really doesn't add up. So it's just like, that's not really a good look, boss. That is not a good look at all. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, $70, unless you really mess with Mosu or warrior style games, or you are deeply invested in this era of Zelda, the era of the wild Zelda, if you like just absolutely need more to scratch that itch, then okay, fine. Because I mean, this is Nintendo, it's not gonna go on sale freaking ever. So if you really want it, then sure. But I mean, for the most part, I think this is an easy probably the easiest pass most people definitely have had. You know what I'm saying? I probably, if I'm honest, this game probably did not sell that well. I guarantee it. We don't know the stats yet because it's only been like a month and a half. But yeah, there's no way this game sold well. Let's be so real with ourselves. Next to that, the map's not really feeling like Warriors, right? Every Warriors game I've played prior to this one, right? It was always the same situation. You're going out and you're making sure to, like, a lot of your missions involve capturing territories and stuff. You know, that was a major part of this. You capture territories, you fight bosses in those territories, you are getting just bunches of them at a time, and the maps are usually way bigger. The maps here are relatively really small, and you have like maybe 1 or 2 missions, and it's usually always the same thing. You are securing somebody, helping somebody out, and you're fighting a boss, whatever. 9 times out of 10, there is no emphasis on like capturing territories and stuff like that. There's not even like, oh, capture this amount of territories and things like that. It's never that. It's never like you need to get most of this map to, you know, really progress or anything. It doesn't make a difference. You just follow the basic kill this boss objective and you move on. You could easily play a majority of these maps without, or a majority of this game without even needing to clear an outpost or an area ever. And it's like, what? Why did we not, like, that's kind of the whole point of a Warriors game, or not the whole point, I guess. Like, it's about the fighting no matter how you go about it. But like, I don't know, I just found it really weird. I think it's because they had to make smaller maps to accommodate for like utilizing or reutilizing the depths and just the entirety of the map, because they had to find a way to fit outposts there. But it's like, it's thousands of years in the past probably. Why are we not taking advantage of that and just manipulating the layout more so that we could fit bigger maps, more outposts and things like that, just like we did for Age of Calamity? You could have done that even more here. I don't know. I don't know. I just didn't really like that. We just didn't have more of an emphasis on that kind of a thing. And it's not the biggest deal, of course, but it's just like, you know, with the repetitive nature, I feel like we did need more variety in how we went about missions and things like that. And they did not capitalize on that like they could have to make it feel more varied in how we go about completing these, you know, these missions, these quests and things like that. So that's really weird, right? The next thing, it's kind of like, I think I mentioned this earlier, or I did mention this earlier when talking about the price. It's double the repetitiveness for half the reward, right? The thing about Age of Calamity that got me spending so much time on it was that there was stuff for me to do, stuff for me to unlock, and the repetitiveness wasn't as bad because there was a lot of different varied challenges and things like that that were worth going out of my way for, right? There was just so many like characters that I can unlock. There were so many potential like different, you know, even with the DLC, you know what I'm saying? They gave us like really good missions, challenging missions, and we had an entire chart to unlock stuff on, you know what I'm saying? Different weapons and things like that. We weren't working with that as much here. I feel like there wasn't really that much of a reason to go out of your way to do a majority of the extra missions, especially in the post game, because there wasn't really anything more to work towards. You know, I wanted to make sure before I delved more into it that there wasn't other characters and things like that, or other weapons, unique weapons for Zelda or Rauru or Minoru or whatever, or the Construct, that I was missing out on. And lo and behold, I wasn't. There was just nothing more. And I was like, oh, okay, so what's the point? You know what I'm saying? Even probably for the gameplay that you're going to be looking at, I'm playing pretty reluctantly. Like, I didn't care to come back to this game. If this is my gameplay, we'll see, because like I said, I didn't see a point. You know what I'm saying? And to put in, you know, solid hours to complete the story, only to find out that there's really nothing more to work towards, so everything afterwards would just kind of be a little bit of a waste of time, sucks. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, again, you know, I'm willing to work through the repetitiveness if there's something to work towards. I beat the game, I got the story, there's no more characters or anything like that, there's no more, like, cool scenes or whatever for me to unlock, so I just put the game down, and I don't think I'm ever coming back to it because of that specifically, right? Because it's just like, oh, alright, cool, you know what I'm saying? Maybe ever is a strong word, maybe eventually when I do inevitably revisit all of, you know, the era of the wild, I'll go back to it, but I don't know, I just feel like it really sucks that I feel like I was getting a lot more out of Age of Calamity, a 5-year-old game now, than Imprisonment, which should have doubled and improved on almost every aspect of Age of Calamity, and it barely did that at all. So I don't know, that's a mixed bag. And then my last major issue was just the fact that, you know, the story didn't lead to anything really all that important. And that was the one thing I was worried about, you know, and that's why I kind of moved my opinion on the story to, like, it moved down a little bit, explaining it out loud, because it didn't lead to anything important, you know. Again, we knew the story going in. We knew the entirety of the story from beginning to end. We just never saw more of the middle. And with the middle, you know, just generally felt that it was lacking a little bit, you know, in terms of, like, you know, some more character development, especially surrounding the sages and stuff like that. Like, one of the sages got some pretty good development, the Gerudo chief, you know, she was cool, but, like, everybody else is just like, yeah, cool, these are the sages of their respected areas, of their respective regions, like, they're part of the war now, and I don't know. I feel like I didn't get as much as I would have liked to. There are some moments. There's a lot of really, really cool moments. I just don't feel like there's enough, right? There's just not enough to justify, again, the price, man. It's just, I don't know. It's not crazy. And then, like, you know, again, we already knew what happened with Ganondorf, so we were just kind of trying to figure out, most of the drive of this story for me was just figuring out, okay, so what the hell happened to Calamo and the construct? Like, obviously at some point Calamo found somewhere to saddle up. Where is he? And he's some random hollowed out stump. It's not random per se, it's a semi-significant area, like a whatever. It's just some random area in Tears of the Kingdom that you can actually actively go to, and, you know, that's Calamo. Cool. Great. It's just like, okay, yeah, the construct died alongside, you know, Calamo, like, shacking up and, you know, deciding to live his life eternally as a tree there. Okay. I don't know. Overall, I don't want to say this. I really don't want to say this. I really, really, really don't. But Age of Calamity was low-key a waste of time. I mean, not Calamity. Age of Imprisonment was low-key a waste of time because it just doesn't lead to anything really all that significant in the long run. And it just, you know, I don't know. At least Age of Calamity, there were things that were able to catch us off guard and really surprise us because we didn't know, you know, what was going to change, you know, exactly everything that went down. There was more of a mystery there as opposed to, like, you know, here where the entire point of the memories was learning what went down during that time period. All the missing facts we got were Zelda was actually way stronger than we, you know, recognized. We learned more about the sages, and we learned who Calamo and the construct were, even though those two weren't mentioned really in Tears of the Kingdom. Not really, anyway. So, yeah. Age of Imprisonment, I'm gonna just say, was kind of mid. It was kind of mid, you know, solid 5 out of 5. or 5 out of 10, excuse me. Played it once. I might play it again for some footage. Don't see myself coming back to it for a while. Or ever, possibly. We'll see what happens. And that really sucks to say it that way, because, you know, now that I've explained it out loud, I'm feeling a lot more melancholy about it. Did I use that right? I'm feeling a lot more just passive about that game now. And that really sucks, because I like Mosu games. This is probably one of the weaker ones that I've played so far. And that sucks, you know? Again, mechanics are cool. Gameplay is fire. But, you know, now that I've played all of it and I know that there's just nothing more to do, really, or nothing more to work towards, unless you really like that challenge. I think they updated, they did send out an update semi-recently for free, I think. I don't know what the details of it are, but I remember looking at it and not caring. So, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's stuff that I just completely missed, and, you know, maybe I'm completely wrong for that. But for the most part, even then, you know, I've been away from it for so long now that I don't care. So, it is what it is. But, hey, you know what? Maybe that's just me. So that just about does it for this one. I'm passing the mic over in your direction. I want you guys to tell me everything that you're thinking in the comment section below. Do you agree that Age of Imprisonment was just kind of meh? You know, it just kind of came and went. Basic Mosu game that just did the job that it needed to, which was kind of filling an empty space for 2025 and just giving us that little bit of Zelda at the end of the year there? Or was it completely unnecessary? Or was it completely necessary? This game is absolutely critical. It gave you everything you wanted and needed, and it is super high quality Zelda. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I'm always down there with you guys. But with that, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gone. So thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time.